Kyle here from allmeterreviews.blogspot.com, here to do some reviews today. The first one to this particular video is for the TV series, the finale of the TV series Dead to Me on Netflix. Linda Cardellini and Christina Applegate. Christina Applegate, they're kind of co-stars. So this was season 3. I've done a previous video or two talking about it. It took season 3 took longer to be made and be finished and everything like that, partially due to COVID, but also to do with, unfortunately, Christine Applegate's condition, developing multiple sclerosis, which I was looking for information about it for a long time because the first season it started in 20 it was filmed in 2018, I believe, and came out in 2019. Liz Feldman, the creator of Two Broke Girls and some other shows, did this show. But I watched it. Was it May? Yeah, May of 2019. I just binged it. One of the first shows I ever binged. It was like between that and Stranger Things. Anyway, because it was it was 20 minutes an episode. I think I watched it in about a week, a little less than that. Which some people that's actually a long time, but really liked it. The premise, if you don't know Dead to Me, the premise is Christine Applegate's husband is killed in some car crash when he goes running late one night, and her 2 young children and family are trying to get over it, and she meets her character's name is Jen. Yeah, Jen. She meets at a grief group, meets Judy, played by Linda Cardellini, and Linda Cardellini, it turns out you learn at the end of the first season, is the one who was responsible, her and her fiance, for hitting her husband, but she's kind of making amends, kind of doing penance to try to help her in some way. Anyway, then the second season, at the end of the first season, James Marsden's character was Linda Cardellini's fiance, but they weren't really together at the point that the show starts, where she meets Jen. But James Marsden character gets kind of in a heat of in a discuss a conflict of passion, you could say, I don't know, with Jen, involving Judy and some other things. Ends up killing, or she kills him. Whatever, you kind of learn in the third season that wasn't really. He died of drowning because he's got a pool in her backyard or whatever, and she ends up hitting him with this wooden bird and ends up drowning. Anyway, they have to worry about his body and stuff, and then you've learned that he has a twin brother in the second season, so they bring James Marsden's back, and his brother Ben versus the Steve character is the one that was with Judy and that Jen ended up taking, being responsible for the death of. The investigation was throughout the second season, and they don't really resolve that. I mean, a little bit, but not. She confesses to the chief, the lead investigator, Perez. I forget the actress's name. She was on The Good Guys. Played a very similar kind of character. With she's good. I like the actress's name who plays Perez. What was her name? Diana Maria Riva. Detective Anne Perez. Anyway, so she confesses to her, but after hearing the story and the circumstance of what happened and her kids and stuff like that, and everything with Judy's situation, she just decides not to really turn her in. So you're kind of that cliffhanger for the third season. But that came in, I think it was May of 2020, right when COVID started. But they already filmed it, obviously, before COVID in 2019. But, logically, the third season would have come in on, May of 2021, sometime in 2021. It didn't, due to COVID, of course, and due to Christine Applegate's condition. So then you thought maybe this year, 2022, and they filmed that they had finished it, but the filming had been obviously delayed. But we really didn't get confirmation until it was late September, early October. It was like less than 2 months ago, but. So we did have it, and then all the stuff about how Christina Applegate was in an interview. I haven't read the interview, but she was interviewed. A friend of mine did, and how it was really difficult for her to film, and she gained a bunch of weight also, which is interesting. The plot of season 3, the final season, was going to be the final season. They announced that, and Christine Applegate is going to retire from acting for the best, I guess. But you see her, and she got her star on the Walk of Fame, and she can barely stand. I struggle with my back, but she can barely stand, or like a lot of people that have MS struggle with motor functions and stuff like that, coordination, among other things. But I guess when they filmed it, they had people to like help her at times that just were like taken out of the scenes, like to help her, and there's a lot of scenes where she's sitting, just I couldn't help but not think about that watching the whole season, like, when is she standing, when is she not standing. But yeah, she clearly get gain weight. Now, so at the end of the second season is a cliffhanger where she gets in a car crash on this stop sign that's related to her husband's death, right near where she lives. That actually turns out the Ben character, he's got alcoholic problems. He ends up driving and going right through the stop sign, hitting them, and driving off. And you found out later he does confess to them, to both, because Judy was in the car with Jen at the time, but they're both in the hospital, and that's maybe the explanation they kind of had. But she also had a little bit of a fling. I can't remember if the second season she did. I think she did. She had a reoccurring fling with him, with Ben, and she didn't tell Judy about it right away. Judy has her own relationship with another woman. I forget the actress's name. She's been in a bunch of other things, including White Collar. I would think of her for White Collar, but Natalie Morales. She plays Michelle. Anyway, they end up, she clearly has gained more weight, and so they explain that now. They bring into the fact that she was worried about she has bruised ribs or something worse, but turns out she's pregnant, Jen, at 47 years old. So that's sort of their explanation, and that makes some sense. That was a good, easy way to sort of write that in there. You also find out, though, in the aftermath of the crash, when Judy and Jen are in the hospital, that Judy has cancer. It's been diagnosed, and she had the year before hadn't had something checked or something like that, and I can't remember because I'd have to go back and watch season 2, but yeah, and I guess it's based on some real experience that someone that Liz Feldman knew. So of course, she tries chemo and thinks it's working, and it doesn't end up working, unfortunately. So then there was a clinical trial she could have done, and she's like, let it go. I just want to live my life for the amount of time that she has left. So it got to be a little bit, that part of the story really was a central part of season 3. A lot of it, that, and the fact that Ben still doesn't know. I mean, they find out that they find the body of his brother Steve finally, but Ben doesn't know how Steve really died. They traced it to the Greeks, the Greek people, that they got the money, that they stole paintings, that Steve had stolen paintings from. There's all this money in the paintings that Judy was using for different things, for her cancer treatment and other things. And they end up doing like a Thelma and Louise thing. And they told the cops that they were not gonna, because Judy confesses to it because she doesn't have that much time left and everything. And then they go to Mexico. They told her she's going to a clinical trial, but they end up going to Mexico, and it was it was a good kind of send off. And they're like, well, you can come back, Judy and Jen, and she's like, no. And Steve had her fiance, the guy that Jen had killed, that who was responsible for Jen's husband death. So they had a place in Mexico, like an ocean home, or whatever you want to call it, I guess, right on the ocean. And so that the last few episodes where they went there was like the last episode. The last 2 episodes were kind of surreal at points. But yeah, I kind of was getting the sense that they're probably not going to have her come back. She just, instead of having to die in prison or die kind of in a painful way at her place or in some other fashion, have her kind of die on somewhat of her own terms. And that was very. I mean, it's a dark comedy. There were still a lot of comedic moments, but at some point, it sort of transitioned more into a just drama about grief. They talk about grief, and because it's not the episodes aren't that long. It's not drawn out, but I like the third season. The only thing is the very final. This is spoiling. All this review is mostly spoiling, but the final episode, um, after you find out Judy, you don't see her die, but she goes off onto the ocean onto a boat, and then you see Jen driving back home from Mexico to their San wherever it is San not San Mateo, that part of Southern California they live. You see Judy in the car with her, but then it's sort of an imaginative sort of thing. Her spirit was there, maybe. But then Ben, of course, he'd actually been put into prison because he confessed. He got out for time for good behavior, and he was gonna go back home because he wasn't from there, wasn't living there. I mean, he's from that same town, but he wasn't living there. But he finds out because Jen finally tells him that I'm pregnant with your baby, and so then you see them in the pool in the backyard, the kids playing the pool with Ben, and Ben gets out of the pool and sits next to Jen, and Jen's looking at the sort of guest house that Judy spent time living with them, and she's like, I want to tell you something, and so she's gonna tell him rather that she took and that what how really how his twin brother died. Now, in the sort of some of the flashbacks that they showed of Ben with his brother Steve, Steve was not the kindest. He didn't have a lot of great memories with his brother. Steve gave him tons of crap, was yelling at him for his alcohol problems and all that stuff. So while he's sad that he died, obviously, I don't know. We don't know his reaction. I guess that it's sort of like it just went to black, and we just kind of make up the reaction because I don't know. I kind of think that while he would be upset at first, and that she didn't tell him right away, given everything that he did, that they went through, and that he hit them and everything like that, and the way that Steve treated her, more so Judy, and all this stuff. Knowing most of the facets of the relationship, I mean, Ben wasn't introduced to the second season. I think he would have probably forgiven her, and they would have lived happily ever after, or whatever. By the end of the third season, you really kind of understand the Judy character more than you do in like the first couple seasons. I think in some ways. I mean, she's the most sympathetic character in the show. Although I think that Christine Applegate's character Jen still is the center of the show for the most part, and beyond her physical and medical limitations, I think she deserves an Emmy or a Golden Globe for this. I don't know if she'll get one, but she's had a great career, Christine Applegate. It's too bad that this is potentially going to end it unless treatment for MS goes well, or she could do like voice work or something. But besides Married with Children, you did have the Married with Children reunion with what's her name? Peg. I forget the actress from Married with Children who plays Judy's mother. It's not listed on here. You think she would have got Katie Siegel, I believe her name is. You do have the reunion in one episode where she comes back. She's in prison, Judy's mother, and then she had Judy because she confessed to the crime of killing Steve. She had to be, but she's going to go because clinical trial things. They made an exception. The cops aren't your typical cops. They're making an exception because they're being more personal. But they put an ankle, like one of those control ankle things, and she puts it on her mom's ankle so she could go off to Mexico. But yeah, it was a good season. I mean, I didn't struggle through the second season, but I got a little thrown off by the whole twin brother thing. My wife doesn't want to watch the show because basically they resolved the primary plot of the show in the first season. That's my reaction when I first saw the show. I was like, what do they have left to do? Because the main mystery of the show is how her husband died and find out what happened. But I liked it. I liked it in a lot of ways. It was very... I guess part of it was Christina Applegate's whole story watching it kind of made me appreciate it more in some ways. And she's just really good. I mean, the whole weight gain thing was a little weird to take. She looked more like that comedian, the comedian that I'm blanking on. I kept on seeing I can't, the blonde female comedian that was, she was in Bridesmaids. I forget what movie she was in, but she's been in, she's been a little out of it. No, 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 not the ones I'm pulling. Amy Schumer, that's who. I kept on thinking, wow, they made Christine Applegate has become like Amy Schumer, but yeah, I mean, it's if you like the first season and you never got around to watching the second season and third season, it's worth it because it's not like an excessive amount of episodes and like that. But yeah, for how long we had to wait, I'm glad we got it. Part of it is because this whole period of time with television, it seems like most of these shows I've been into the last few years are now done or canceled. Most of them, not all of them, but there's a chance the Orville could come back for a fourth season, which I'm hopeful. But looking forward to some other shows. But to have like one more season of Dead to Me, and of course Liz Feldman has a new show called Good Deeds or something, or No Good Deed. It's about a group of people that that end up are like looking to buy. I think it's looking to buy a house. Looking to buy a house that like. Is it listed? It's still not. It's like Good Deeds or No Good Deeds. But there's no casting information. Yeah, No Good Deed. Fine. I read a premise about this earlier. It doesn't show. Follows three very different families vying to buy the very same 1920s Spanish style villa they think will solve all their problems. But I think what it is that it's like a haunted house. Yeah, and it says, but as the sellers have already discovered, sometimes the home of your dreams can be a total nightmare. I'm saying that it's haunted, but it's because I'm sure it's going to be a dark comedy like this. I wonder, of course, the Jen character is a realtor in Dead to Me. I wonder if some of the Dead to Me people could show up. Obviously not Christina Applegate, but Linda Cardellini, James Marsden, or even some of the secondary people, the kids. Well, probably not the kids, but well, they could potentially, like the either Nick Prager or Brandon Scott, who played Nick Prager. One of those two could end up. Although I wonder if it's for younger couples. So neither of them are. I mean, Diana Maria Riva is not exactly. Like I said, she goes back to, but the Good Guide for 2010. I don't know. We'll see. Or Natalie Morales, maybe, or who knows? That just tends to happen oftentimes with actors that are on shows with people that are successful. They end up. Maybe some of the Two Broke Girls cast could show up on. I could definitely see that. I could see Beth Bairds maybe. Anyway, I don't know when this show No Good Deed's going to end up coming out. Netflix potentially, but it may not be till 2024. Who knows? But anyway, have you watched the third season of Dead to Me? What's your take? What's your take on the show overall? I'd love to hear about that. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I really appreciate that. And I'll see you next time.